Hi, this is Larry Hatch, and this is 10 more words that are new and modern for success and better communication. It used to be 25, but I got so long-winded I'm cutting it down to 10 per video. Our first word today is a group V, or a groupie, not the kind that hangs around rock stars, but it's basically a selfie, except that three or more people are involved, not just oneself. And for reasons, I guess, that are obvious, maybe not obvious, a selfie is often two people, like you and a celebrity, or you and grandma on her birthday, something like that. Those are still called selfies. It's me and somebody else. But anyway, a group V is three or more people. It's often, like a public family gathering or something, maybe on an elevator, maybe something at work. Anyway, but it's got to be the selfie type pose, where one person has their arm up or a device up, and generally on a cell phone. The next term, I've actually done it, didn't know it had a term. It's called a fakersation. It's a contrived or staged conversation, often one-sided, just you, for the purpose of escaping an unpleasant situation or obligation. I'll give you how the elaborate one tends to work. Somebody's on a blind date and they're a little nervous about it, so they tell their friend, "I'll be, such and such a restaurant. Give me a call exactly at 7:30. And if I say this code word, you say this. If I say this other code word, it's going fine, and we'll just hang up." So maybe the guy will say the word, "Hey, what's up?" And that'll mean the date's terrible. And oh my God, really? Oh, and then he hangs up. And he says, "I'm very sorry. I'm on call tonight, and the computer system, the whole network went down," my boss said, "and I'm on call. I've got to fix it, or the whole production's going to shut down. I'm really sorry, but I really got to go." That sounded somewhat believable, didn't it? That's scary. But anyway, it can be a thing where, "Oh, my grandmother's sick. I've got to take care of her. I got to," some of these are not pretty believable, but I think we've all heard about them or done them. They're more than little white lies, but anyway. The next one, I couldn't believe it until I saw a picture of it. It's called autonomous architecture, and I know it from a video that MIT did, and you can probably Google or YouTube that. It's the practice of using robots to construct buildings or structures with only minimal human input and no human labor during the assembly phase. In other words, you set up the robot, here's his materials, he's programmed to know how to design it, and he just goes and does it. And the one the MIT people did was kind of like a dome, and the robot arm would infuse, I think it was with stucco or sort of a light concrete, a material, and it would just spin in a circle until this perfect dome was formed. And it had all this materials and the robot inside, and it just built this dome on its own with its computer program, and it knew how to contour it so it wasn't all, up and down. It was curved. So anyway, if you can get a video of that, that would be cool. But it's a new term, and I suspect that's a future job for robots, because housing is very expensive, and robots are a great thing. Our next term is ungardening. I've been a gardener for, pretty much forever, about 50 years at least, 55, let's say. And it's the practice of maintaining a space, generally residential or urban, in a naturalized manner that looks like nature did it, minimizing horticultural or agronomic or agricultural skills and chemicals, such as a hyper low maintenance meadow or prairie. I know people that let their whole property turn into a beautiful wildflower meadow. It's sometimes better in theory than in fact, because it does attract snakes and rats, and the neighbors might not be too happy about that. But it can look beautiful with lots of wildflowers and stuff. Um, but, there's a sort of a limit to what you can do unless you own a property way out in the country or something. But anyway, it's an interesting term. The next term is truck platooning, and it's a convoy of 3 or more self-driving delivery trucks, and those already exist, but there's more coming, which follow closely together in a platoon or convoy, and they're really close because they're all computer controlled, and because they're kind of on each other's tail, like a NASCAR racer, they have really good aerodynamics, and they have efficient use of energy. They can split off if they have different destinations, but they can all arrive at the same time. So I think we're going to see more of this. I think there's going to be some legislation probably, because the last thing we need are railroads on the highway, trains on the highway. So look forward to truck platooning, and we'll see how far that gets. Eco-cide. It's still, it's like homicide, suicide, whatever, killing the ecology. It's deliberately damaging or harming in a severe way the environment, such as by pollution, or bulldozing, or clear cutting, or whatever you call it. It's just really destroying a piece of the ecology, almost irreparably, if you will. And I think we know that when we see that. Food miles. It's the sum total distance that your food must travel to reach you, such as from the farm to the factory, and then it's processed from the factory to the store, and the store to you. And it's a measure of energy consumed, as well as pollution and other costs. Food miles for the home garden, that's probably 10 feet or a fraction of a mile. I saw some olive oil the other day, and that olive oil came from Italy, Brazil, and I forgot the third country. But anyway, that one little bottle of olive oil came from all the way from Brazil and Italy and another country, was processed presumably in the United States. God knows how many thousands of miles that was. Not just for me, but that's a lot of something there, right? Obviously, they wouldn't do it if it wasn't cost effective, but what is the cost in terms of energy and pollution and other costs? Obviously, some of us are in parts of the country where they don't grow olives, so we do have to go a long way for our olive oil. But, could you get some peppers at the farmer's market that, 25 or maybe 10 food miles versus buying them from Brazil or Mexico or California or Florida? I don't know. That's something to think about. Anyway, the next term is machine bias, and that's the prejudice created by computers doing analysis, machines, mainly in terms of the data that's excluded or included, and the limitations of the formulas that are given. You've heard the old term garbage in, garbage out, but it's more important now that we're getting into AI, and I think, it does affect all of us. If you have a credit score, machines are calculating that. Pretty much anything else, your bank is going to look at not just your credit score, but other things that you do in terms of your accounts. Insurance companies will often look at your level of education and give you different rates if you're more or less educated. That sort of thing. And here's a very practical example. I live in an apartment complex, and they report on-time payments to the credit bureaus. You just rent from a guy or a lady, they're not going to report you to the credit bureau. They're just the landlord, right? So my credit score involves me making regular payments, or maybe my neighbor not making regular payments. So already our credit scores, me, the neighbor, and the guy who rents from a friend, um, there's going to be bias on our credit scores because of the data that was included or excluded or processed in a different way. Companies keep their formulas and their algorithms very close to the vest, so kind of look out for that. Launch control. This is a computer function of some usually expensive performance cars, although it's coming down, to automatically manage a takeoff, a jackrabbit start, 0 to 60, in terms of the timing, the tire temperature, the speed, the engine RPM, battery temperature, and so on. If you're doing a launch control with a Tesla, it makes sure the batteries are up to temperature. A lot of cars, you need to sometimes do a burnout so the tires are warm enough for a good launch. And again, a launch is sort of about making a time, sort of legal drag racing, if you will. And sometimes you want to have it trigger at a certain RPM where the engine's best in first gear. That'll vary car by car. So launch control is something that you will see in performance cars, particularly American ones and more expensive ones. Ecotourism, I think some of us have heard that before. It's the attraction of visitors to an area based on its unique, attractive, or special ecology, usually helping to fund its conservation. So the funds from ecotourism are plowed back in terms of, hotel taxes, transportation taxes, touring fees, often directly into the preservation or conservation of the area, and that varies somewhat. But it's a way that countries and areas for a long time really have used tourism dollars to keep the thing going and that sort of thing. So I think we all know examples of that, and ecotourism is our way of supporting something with our feet, our time, and our dollars. Thank you very much. Give us a subscribe or like